welcome to another video from AW Services. Today's video, and the intention of this video, is to show you how to make connections to a pump. We're not talking about the in-depth use of a flow controller. We're not talking about fusing, as fusing should be before the controller. So the aim of this video is to simply show you and talk through ways on how to connect a pump. It could be a shore flow pump used in a motorhome RV. It could be a shore flow pump used for a water-fed pole window cleaning system. It could be a small backpack diaphragm pump. They're all the same. They have a positive and a negative wire coming out of them, and you'll have a flow controller or some form of control to actually make that work. So, tools required to make connections. So we'll talk through the connections in the most logical way possible. These connectors, little grey cubes with orange levers, are known as Wago connectors. There are many clones and copies on the market, but if you're going to buy them, buy genuine Wago, because these are designed to handle amperage as well as good conductivity. A lot of electricians use them nowadays. However, I personally think they're only for temporary use only. I wouldn't use them in a water-fed pole pump backpack trolley, because of the humidity that you get with water going through pipes creates condensation, and the small steel pins and the levers in these do rust out after time. They are Wago connectors, available from Screwfix. I think tool stations sell them. Very good for temporary use. That's my opinion only, so don't take that too deep. Also, connection blocks, or chocky blocks as they're affectionately known in the trade, because they're like blocks of chocolate and you can snap them off depending on how many you need. Very good. They can handle up to 15 amps on the larger ones, 6 amps on the smaller ones, and 30 amps on the much bigger ones that I don't have. Again, permanent installation use, they're very good, but you've got to ensure your actual cable connections going into them are secure, and you need to stress test those before you put your system back together. Another way are small plastic bullet connectors. These are crimp connectors. You have a male and a female, so when dealing with power from a battery, you always have a female. So if the cable comes off with the male, that pin doesn't arc out and short your battery or explode a system in your face. So these are crimp connections. You can use these with a standard manual gun. However, I have an old style ratchet style gun which is very reliable and applies the correct amount of tension to terminate those connectors. And you can also solder a connector. Many soldering irons available. UK mains voltage soldering iron. I've had this for about 10 years. I've looked after it. It's just a ragged one for quick jobs. I do have some really nice soldering irons kept away, but these are the ones that I use all the time because they're always available. You can pick these up on Amazon, eBay, Maplins, RS Electronics, CPC, from anything from like £4 upwards. Very good to have because they provide a constant heat. You've got to treat it like a woman. You've got to make sure your tip's always clean. If your tip isn't clean, your tip will deteriorate. And you can also get gas soldering irons. This is a Portasol Technic. Had this for about 10 years. Replaceable tips, and you can change different tips, different style millimeter tips. However, this one stays in my van, in my toolbox, with gas and also solder. So talking of solder, with a lot of the new European and world health legislation, lead is being phased out in solder. However, solder that doesn't contain lead and more tin and more alloys is prone to dry joints, because the lead actually works with the tin to mix it. So this is 60-40 lead tin. It's not cheap, but it's worth having and keeping it sealed out the way from moisture, because it will oxidize. But that is very good quality lead tin solder. Insulation tape, always good for emergencies and to cover up bare wires, but it should only be used temporarily. But you can do cable management and tape wires together neatly. in looms. Also, I've got about a box of about 10,000 pieces of heat shrink over about 20-30 years. You can get many trade boxes like these with good quality heat shrink in them, pre-cut, different diameters, but it's handy to have heat shrink as that stops cable abrasion. It covers up soldered joints so they don't arc and spark together, and it's a must to have really, but you don't need to have that. You can get away with insulation tape. Tools needed: good pair of side cutters. They're not pliers, they are side cutters. They have a sharpish flat edge on one side and they are cutters. You need a set of cutters. Don't try to hack at it with just a pair of kitchen scissors, because you'll damage your scissors and you won't get a clean cable. You can also buy very good quality wire strippers. I've got about 4 sets of these. These are American. Had these for about 15 years. They work as good as they were the day that I bought them. I look after them. And screwdriver for doing up your block connectors. So for the purpose of this video, we have a Sureflow Trail King 7 pump. This is a pump that I used as a transfer pump, mounted on the side of an IBC water tank with my very own flow controller that I made, all waterproof connections, and it bolted onto the side of my IBC to fill water barrels with. But for the purposes of this video, it's a pump. It has wires to the pump, it has wires to the controller or from the controller, so it's a great demonstration piece to use in this video. So first of all, make sure you've got plenty of cable to work with, wire, cord, flex, wherever you are in the world. To me it's wire. Make sure you've got enough to work with, and we're going to use our wire strippers. So for this you would need to get about, I'd say about 15 to 20 millimeters. Use the correct gauge, give it a quick squeeze, a little turn and a gentle pull, and your wires will come bared nice and clean, and all the excess that you take off comes off nice and cleanly as well. So these wires here are the 2 wires out from my flow controller, positive and negative. We'll do the same again with those. So now we have, hoping the camera can pick this up, it is 10:20 in the evening at night, and I thought I'd get this video done now. So we now have our bared wires. So with this next step, it does help if you are not colourblind, and also when working or replacing a pump in a backpack, it's good to establish the polarity of the wires that you're using. So polarity reference refers to positive and negative. So when I put the positive to a battery, the pump will turn in its rotation that it's intended to. So you need to make sure that it's like for like. You may get a Chinese replacement diaphragm pump from eBay for £10, and you might find that it might come with a red and a green wire, or a red and a white wire, a red and a black wire. I've seen them all. Red is positive and then black is negative. So on our wires from our flow controller, when I built this, I marked them with heat shrink, red and black, positive and negative, which then denotes our polarity. So for this next part, we're going to use 2 Wago connectors. Wago connectors have 2 levers, however they are only single pole in reference to both holes are both connected. So don't think you can put a positive on one side and negative on the other, because it won't work. These are as one, so always consider these as one connection. So for Wago connectors, you need to establish the correct length of cable or wire going into them. So really should be around about 9.6 millimeters from what I measured them a long time ago. So with our side cutters, we'll just trim off our wires from our pump, give them a twist with your fingers. If you've got soft hands and you've worked in an office all your life, it might hurt and you might get ouchy a little bit, but you'll get used to that in time. So we've got our wires trimmed down, we'll give them a twist. So with your Wago connector, if you hold on to them, pinch them and pull the levers up till it's like a little rabbit with pretty little ears sticking up. So positive, we'll go for first. So positive in one side, hold them firmly in your hand, push the wire in until you feel its natural stopping point. Once you've found that stopping point, continue to press the wire in, press the back of the Wago connection and press the lever down. We'll then identify our other positive wire, which is out from our flow controller, and push that in, ensuring that we have no strands of wire poking out of the connector, because that will short against something else. On the positive side, pinch with your fingers, pull both levers up, negative wire goes into one side, give it a push, press the lever down, and again with our other negative wire from our flow controller. So now we have established the most basic of wiring connections. They're solid, you can pull on them, they won't fall off. When you have these connectors, you may find an indent or a hole in the top here. I hope the camera picks this up. This hole is actually a test port. So if you wanted to do a continuity test and test a circuit, whether it may be a mains lighting ring in a house, it could be a pump installation in the van. If you have your multimeter, you can put your multimeter probe into that hole and you can test a connection because it's insulated. So that is the use of Wago connectors. So to remove them, pull the ears up, gently pull them off.